Hey gang, welcome back to another video. So this year we've decided to take a break from setting up our haunt, but I still wanted to create a small vignette to let people know the break was only temporary. Now I've got a pretty good idea of what I want it to look like, but it requires a large rock, which is something I've never had to make before. So in this video, I'll be making a rock using scraps around the shop, and I'll be taking you along with me. So let's get into it.
The first thing I'll need is a few cardboard boxes. I'd seen this method used for creating concrete stones, so I was curious if it would work for foam. I also grabbed a scrap of wire mesh, which I cut into strips to help stretch what little mesh I had on hand. This should allow me to join the boxes together and provide a bit more structure to the stone. But of course I can't just leave them in the shape they're in, so it's time to take out all my frustrations on these boxes and give them a bit more of an organic shape. Because I want my fake stone to have a tiered shape, I'll prop the smaller box on top of the larger, and with the wire mesh at the ready, I'll strap them together using some 1-inch screws, and then I can shift my attention to paper towels. Yep, you heard that correctly. My thinking was that I could use shop towels to create a skin over the foam that would help to soften the shape, but I'll need to tear off the factory edges to help each piece blend together. I used about a dozen pieces of shop towel, but this will change depending on the size and shape of your stone. With my shop towels prepped, I grabbed a spray bottle of water and a few bits of foam to help bulk out the structure a bit, since it still looked a bit too boxy, and then it was time for foam. Spray foams tend to work a bit better when moisture is involved, and so to help promote adhesion and a bit more controllable expansion, I sprayed down the boxes with water, put on my shop apron and some gloves, and got to applying foam to the first side of my boxes. Spray foam is weirdly heavier than it is tacky as it leaves the can, but I've found that working in a zigzag motion helps to give each new layer something to hang on to as it expands. So I'll work from left to right or up and down in tight passes until the entire side of the box is covered. While applying the foam, I wondered if I could control it a bit more by wetting down my hand and tapping it into shape, since I know this works with other brands. But I quickly found that this was a bad idea. Sometimes you just have to test the limits of the materials to see what you can and cannot get away with. At this point, with sticky hands and shop towels at the ready, I decided to start applying towels over the top of the foam, wetting them down first with water to help give them a bit more weight, but also because the foam likes moisture, and I figured it would help them to bond better. As I applied the towels, I gently pushed them into the foam to give it a bit more shape, basically trying to prevent the foam from being overly lumpy as it has a tendency to be. And once the first side was covered in towels, I grabbed a fresh can of spray foam and moved on to the next side. While I worked on the next area of my stone, I realized a flaw in my approach. Because of the towels, it will make shaping a lot more difficult. However, rather than stopping and reassessing, I decided to move forward just to see how this would all turn out. Now this video is a bit more trial and error mixed with real-time troubleshooting than my usual videos, but I thought it was valuable to see that even the most experienced maker can sometimes run into unexpected issues. After making my way all around the boxes, I took a final pass with my spray bottle to help dampen any dry areas of shop towel, and then tried to blend them together to create a shell around the foam. About an hour later, I gave the stone a coating in dry lock to help seal up the edges of the towels and make the whole structure a bit more weather resistant. It looked a little something like this. With the first coat dry, I applied a second using a pouncing motion that should help to fill in any cracks and create some additional texture. This will give it a more organic appearance and helps to hide any brush strokes. And when I'm happy with the coverage, I can set it aside to dry. A few hours later, and with 2 spray bottles at the ready, I could get to weathering. This larger pump sprayer has water, which will help the paint in the second spray bottle move a bit more easily. so I'll give my stone a light pass with water and then followed by my brown and black acrylic paint wash. I kind of freestyled the ratio of paint to water, but what I was looking for was something that would run easily but still had enough pigment that it created lasting contrast against the base color of the stone. I'll add a few rounds of the wash to the stone, and then we'll switch over to a beige spray paint to add fine speckles to the surface. This is done by just barely pressing down on the cap, which causes the spray paint can to sputter. It takes a bit of practice, but it's a nice addition to this paint job. If you wanted a more predictable method, you could thin some acrylic paint with water and flick it off the bristles of a toothbrush. When I was happy with how that looked, I followed it up with a bit more of my brown wash and then applied a bit of black spray paint speckling and called it done.
Now, while this isn't the most authentic looking rock, with the right set dressing and lighting, it would definitely pass the 10-foot test. Are there things I would have done differently? Sure, but considering this was my first try, I'd say this was pretty successful. Now, hopefully this build was a good reminder that it's okay to experiment, and that even the most experienced makers sometimes have new things to learn. Well, that's going to do it for this one. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, but most importantly, go make something.